Hey, boys and girls. I'm here because I'm using my Chromebook and I wanted to get back to the book. And sorry I have to look this way when I'm using my camera, but I can't do this and have this here. I'd be mashing all kinds of buttons. I know y'all were waiting on the end of chapter 26, which is just a wee bit. So let me jump right back into it and I'll read just the first few sentences to back up a little bit and then get to where we were. And we are on chapter 26 of Tom Sawyer. The boy's breath forsook them. Injun Joe put his hand on his knife, halted a moment, undecided, and then turned toward the stairway. The boys thought of the closet, but their strength was gone. The steps came creaking up the stairs, and that's where I had stopped. The intolerable distress of the situation woke the stricken resolution of the lads. They were about to spring for the closet when there was a crash of rotten timbers, and Injun Joe landed on the ground amid the debris of the ruined stairway. He gathered himself up, cursing, and his comrade said, I've got this right here, but it's a little bit warm for it right now. Now, what's the use of all that? If it's anybody and they're up there, then let them stay there. Who cares? If they want to jump down now and get into trouble, who objects? It'll be dark in 15 minutes, and then let them follow us if they want to. I'm willing. In my opinion, whoever hove those things in here, and talk about the tools, caught a sight of us and took us for ghosts or devils or something. I'll bet they're running yet. Joe grumbled a while, and then he agreed with his friend that what daylight was left ought to be economized in getting things ready for leaving. Shortly afterward, they slipped out of the house in the deepening twilight and moved toward the river with their precious box. Tom and Huck rose up, weak but vastly relieved, and stared after them through the chinks between the logs of the house. Excuse me. Follow? Not they. They were content to reach ground again without broken necks and take the townward track over the hill. They didn't talk much. They were too much absorbed in hating themselves, hating the ill luck that made them take the spade and pick there. But for that, Injun Joe never would have suspected. He would have hidden the silver with the gold to wait till his revenge was satisfied, and then he would have had the misfortune to find the money turned up missing. Bitter, bitter luck that the tools were ever brought there. They resolved to keep a lookout for the Spaniard when he should come to town, spying out for chances to do his revengeful job, and follow him to number 2, wherever that might be. Then a ghastly thought occurred to Tom. Revenge? What if he means us, Huck? Oh, don't, said Huck, nearly fainting. They talked it all over, and as they entered town, they agreed to believe that he might possibly mean someone else. At least that he might at least mean nobody but Tom, since only Tom had testified. Very small comfort it was to Tom to be alone in danger. Company would be a palpable improvement, he thought. And I don't think I had read that. I hadn't marked it. Okay, we're on 27 and it's very, very short, so I'll try to get through it. Doubts to be settled, the young detectives. The adventure of the day mightily tormented Tom's dreams that night. 4 times he had his hands on that rich treasure, and 4 times it wasted to nothingness in his fingers as sleep forsook him, and wakefulness brought back the hard reality of his misfortune. As he lay in the early morning, recalling the incidents of his great adventure, he noticed that they seemed curiously subdued and far away, somewhat as if they had happened in another world or in a time long gone by. Then it occurred to him that the great adventure itself must be a dream. There was one very strong argument in favor of this idea, namely, that the quantity of coin he had seen was too vast to be real. He had never seen as much as $50 in one mass before, And he was like all boys of his age and station in life, in that he imagined that all references to hundreds and thousands were mere fanciful forms of speech, and that no such sums really existed in the world. He never had supposed for a moment that so large a sum as $100 was to be found in actual money in any one's possession. If his notions of hidden treasure had been analyzed, they would have been found to consist of a handful of real dimes and a bushel of vague, splendid, ungraspable dollars. But the incidents of his adventure grew sensibly sharper and clearer under the attrition of thinking them over, and so he presently found himself leaning to the impression that the thing might not have been a dream after all. This uncertainty must be swept away. He would snatch a hurried breakfast and go and find, guess who? Huck. Huck was sitting on the gunwale of a flatboat, listlessly dangling his feet in the water and looking very melancholy. Tom concluded to let Huck lead up to the subject. And a gunwale, I guess I'm saying that right, G-U-N, gun, W-A-L-E, maybe it's whale, gun whale, is a flatboat. This Huck is sitting on the side rail of a flat-bottomed boat used in shallow water. Sitting on the flatboat, listlessly dangling his feet in the water and looking very melancholy, Tom concluded to let Huck lead up to the subject. If he did not do it, then the adventure would be proved to have only been a dream. Hello, Huck. Hello yourself. Silence for a minute. Tom, if we'd have left the blamed tools at the dead tree, we'd have got the money. Oh, ain't it awful? Tain't a dream, then. Tain't a dream. Somehow I most wish it was. Dogged if I don't, Huck. What ain't a dream? Oh, that thing yesterday. I'd been half thinking it was. Dream? If them stairs hadn't broke down, you'd have seen how much a dream it was. I'd have dreams enough all night with that patch-eyed Spanish devil going for me all through 'em. Rot him. And patch-eyed, it said the Spaniard wore a small piece of material over his missing or injured eye. Sometimes, as with Injun Joe, it was used just as a disguise. No, not rot him. Find him. Track the money. Tom will never find him. A feller don't have only one chance for such a pal, and that one's lost. I'd feel mighty shaky if I was to see him anyway. Well, so'd I, but I'd like to see him anyway and track him out to his number two. Number two, yes, that's it. I've been thinking about that, but I can't make nothing out of it. What do you reckon it is? I don't know. It's too deep. Say, Huck, maybe it's the number of a house. Goody. No, Tom, that ain't it. If it is, it ain't in this one horse town. There ain't no numbers here. Well, that's so. Let me think a minute. Here is the number of a room in a tavern, you know. Oh, that's the trick. They ain't but only two taverns. We can find out quick. You stay here, Huck, till I come. Tom was off at once. He didn't care to have Huck's company in public places. He was gone half an hour. He found that in the best tavern, number two had long been occupied by a young lawyer and was still so occupied. In the less ostentatious house, number two was a mystery. The tavern keeper's young son said it was kept locked all the time, and he never saw anybody go into it or come out of it except at night. He did not know any particular reason for this state of being. Had some little curiosity, but was rather feeble. Had made the most of the mystery by entertaining himself with the idea that the room was haunted. Had noticed that there was a light in there the night before. That's what I found out, Huck. I reckon that's the very number two we're after. I reckon it is, Tom. What you gonna do? Well, let me think. Tom thought a long moment, and then he said, I'll tell you, the back door, that number 2, is the door that comes out into that little close alley between the tavern and the old rattle trap of a brick store. Now you get hold of all the door keys you can find, and I'll nip all of Auntie's. And the first dark night we'll go there and try 'em. And mind you, keep a lookout for Injun Joe, because he said he was going to drop into town and spy around once more for a chance to get his revenge. If you see him, you just follow him. If you don't go to that number 2, then that ain't the place. Lordy, I don't want to follow him by myself. Why, it'll be night, sure. He mightn't ever see you, and if he did, maybe he'd never think anything. Well, if it's pretty dark, I reckon I'll track him. I don't know. I'll try. You bet I'll follow him if it's dark, Huck. Why, he might have found out he couldn't get his revenge and be going right after that money. It's so, Tom, it's so. I'll follow him. I will, by jingoes. Now you're talking. Don't you ever weaken, Huck. And I won't. And that's the end of 27. And we're good on time. So I'm going to stop there and we'll be at 28. And the manager is on her way back from DC. So her mom, my daughter, Lindsay, just texted me a while ago. Well, earlier this morning. I'm just now seeing it. So they should be here around 4 Eastern time, and it's 1:20 now. So in just a few hours, I'll get to see my kids again. And Jeff has to go right back, my son-in-law, because he's got a new job, Lindsay said. So bless his heart. I hope he'll get to rest a little bit anyway. And the girls are staying the night, so I need to tell Hannah, my youngest, so she can come maybe stay the night with us and hang out one last night all together before they go back. So be looking for the manager and I to come on later with the next chapter of Tom. And might even do a little impromptu live, so be looking for that. I know I said I'll be live next week on Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays. Live at 5 p.m. Eastern time. But I did say I might pop on here and there with a live. So we might come on live sometime tonight. And it is Saturday, the 27th, I think. So, see y'all later. Be sweet. Don't be ugly. Mwah. See you in a little bit, Bells, Jules, Lynn's, Jeff, and Hannah. Oh, and remember, please keep my daughter, Andrea, my middle daughter, in your prayers. Thanks a bunch. Love you. Bye.